Ying, in other words, Gan Yu is a native of Babi and a native of Luling County. My parents are already dead. He left behind a brother named George, who was raised by his elder brother from the age of 5. Gan Yu is a loving and sweet man who treats his younger brother like his own son. After that, Gan Yu grew up. He was a good-looking man, and he was very bright. He wrote well, and Gan Yu liked him even more. He always said, "My brother is very beautiful, and I can't stop looking for a good daughter-in-law." But they were too picky to find satisfaction. Mr. Gan was studying at the Kwangshan Temple one night. Just lying down, I heard a woman talking outside the window. At a glance, he saw 3 or 4 women sitting in the chairs and several maids serving drinks, all of whom were exceptionally beautiful. One woman said, "Lady Ken, why didn't Ying come?" The woman sitting down said, "She came from Hakoya yesterday. She was injured by a villain in her right arm, and she can't play with her. She's sorry for that." Another woman said, "I had a nightmare the night before and I'm sweating from my memory." The next woman, in her hands, said, "Don't say it. Don't say it. The sisters had a great party tonight and said horrible things that were not very pleasant." The woman laughed and said, "Look at that cowardly look of yours. Is there really a wolf that's taking you away? If you don't let me say, you have to sing a song to help us drink." "The peach blossoms of the idle walkies are splendid," the woman bellowed. "Yesterday the young were not to be fooled. Tell the lady next door to stop being a pushover and get some fancy shoes." After the song, the audience was full of praise. Joking, suddenly a tall man barges in from the outside, eagle-eyed, gleaming, ugly and terrifying. The girls cried, "The monster is coming," like a frightened bird. Only the woman who had just sung was in a weak position, left behind and caught by the man. The woman cried bitterly and struggled. The man snapped her finger in an angry shout and chewed up. The woman lay on the floor like she was dead. The compassion of Gan Yu paused and couldn't bear it any longer. She yanked out the sword in a hurry, opened the door and rushed out. She slashed at the man and cut off his thigh. The man ran away in pain. Gan Yu helped the woman into the house and saw her look earthy and blood all over her sleeves. "Look at her hand. Her right thumb is broken." Gan Yu tore down a cloth and wrapped it up before the woman groaned, "How can I repay the favor of saving my life?" When Gan Yu saw her, she had been secretly planning for her brother and told the woman what she meant. The woman said, "I am a disabled person and can no longer do housework. You should find another good one for your brother." Ms. Gan asked her surname, and the woman replied, "Surname Ken." Ms. Gan laid her bedding, put her to rest here for a while, and carried the bedding to sleep elsewhere. The next morning, Gan Yu came to see the woman, but the bed was empty. Ms. Gan thought she must have gone home by herself, but he did not have a surname, Ken, when he visited a nearby village. He asked friends and relatives for more information, and there was no confirmation. Go back and talk to your brother about it and regret it like you lost something. Gan Yu occasionally goes to the wild for a day and meets a 15-year-old girl who is 16 years old and has a beautiful appearance, and looks at Gan Yu smile as if he has something to say. She looked round and asked Mr. Cam, "Are you the Cam dude?" Gan Yu replied, "Yes. Your father got engaged to you and me. How do you want to break your engagement and get engaged to the Kin family today?" "I didn't know any of my family or friends," Gan said. "Please tell me about your family, and I'll go back and ask my brother." The teenager said, "No need to elaborate. I'll come to your house by myself if you say one word," she said. "You're so scared of your brother." "My surname is Lu. I live in Dongshanwang village. In 3 days. Wait for your reply. When we're done, we're done." Gan Yu came home and told her brother-in-law about it. His brother said, "This is nonsense. When my father died, I was in my 20s. If there was such a thing, could I not hear it?" He also felt that the woman was more despised by walking alone in the wild and by casual conversation with the man. Cam asks again about her appearance, and Cam is red-faced and unable to say a word. "Must be a beautiful woman," her sister-in-law said with a laugh. "If it's beautiful, it's certainly not as beautiful as Ken," said Gan. "It's not too late to think about Mrs. Kin when she's not. Mr. Kim quietly retreated. After a few days, Gan Yu saw a woman walking in front of her crying, and then she dropped the whip to hold the reins. With a slight squint of the eye, she saw a beautiful girl with no other talent, and asked the servant to ask her why she was so sad. The girl replied, I used to give the Gan family a permit because my family was poor. Moved to a long distance and broke the letter with the Gan family. Recently, I came back to hear that the Gan family was bent on reneging on the treaty. I'd like to ask my uncle, Gambi, how to settle me. The Gambi is me, Miss Gan said with surprise. I didn't know about the engagement my father made when he was alive. It's not far from home, please come home and discuss it. So get off the horse, hand the reins to the girl, let her ride, walk her own horse, and go home together. The girl herself said, I'm Ying. And there's no brother in the house, only my cousin Kin lives with me. Only then did Gan Yu realize that Ying was the beauty her brother met. Kim wants to tell her family that Ying is stopping it. Kim is secretly happy that her brother has such a handsome daughter-in-law, but is afraid that she will be undignified and debatable. However, Ying lived for a long time and was very reserved and soft-spoken. And like her mother, she was also very much liked by her sister-in-law. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, the Gan Yu couple were having a laugh over a glass of wine, and her sister-in-law asked for Ying. Mr. Kam is not happy. Ying asked someone to come back and said he would be here soon. But she sat there and laughed with Mr. Gan for a long time, and didn't mean to go. Miss Kam is afraid that her sister-in-law has been waiting for so long that she has been urged to do so. Ying just laughed and never went. The next morning, Ying had just finished her makeup and her sister-in-law came to greet her in person. And said, why are you always unhappy when you were together last night? Ying smiled a little and didn't speak. Mr. Kim found it strange to ask again and again, and found a flaw. If it wasn't for the monster, how could there be a split? Her sister-in-law said in a surprise, our family has done good deeds for generations, and never had a grudge against anyone, Gan told Ying through a curtain. If you're such a monster, please go now and don't hurt my brother. I wasn't a person at first. But my husband made an engagement when he was alive, so my cousin also advised me to get married, said Ah Ying, embarrassed. I know I can't have a baby and I wanted to leave you. I'm in love because my sister-in-law is so nice to me. Now that you're suspected, say goodbye forever. When we're done, we turn into a parrot and fly away. When Kampa was alive, he had a parrot, which was very clever, and Kampa often fed himself. At the time, Mr. Kam was 4 or 5 years old and asked his father, what are you doing with birds? Be your daughter-in-law, Mr. Gan joked. Sometimes when the parrot has run out of food, Gan Fu shouts Ganju and says, give the parrot what it eats. You'll have to starve your daughter-in-law. The family laughed at George Gan. Then the parrot broke its chains and flew somewhere. When Kim Yuk came here, she realized that this was what the woman said about the engagement. But Kim knew she wasn't human and still thought about her. My sister-in-law thought harder and wept all day. Miss Gan regrets it, too, but she has little to do. 2 years later, Miss Gan married her brother. But Ms. Gan was never satisfied. The Gan brothers have one cousin who works as a snitch in Guangdong. Mr. Gan went to Guangdong to visit him and did not return for a long time. At this point, the town was riven by bandits, and the nearby villages were mostly ruined. So scared, Ganju led the family into the valley. There are many people sheltering in the valley who don't know anyone. George Kim suddenly heard a female son whispering, sounding like Ying. My sister-in-law urged him to come and see, and Kim came closer. Kim Kak is so happy that he can't relax his arm. Ying told his colleagues, let's go first. I'll see if my sister-in-law comes. Ying came to her sister-in-law, and she saw her and cried sadly. After persuading her repeatedly, Ying said, this is not a safe place. Advise them to go home. It doesn't matter, Miss Kim said repeatedly, fearing that the bandits would go to the village. I went back with them. Mr. Ying ordered Cinder to stop at the door, telling his family to stay at home and not go out. Sitting down to say a few words, Ying turned around and tried to leave. The sister-in-law quickly grabbed her wrist and told two more maids to grab her feet. Ying can't help it, so she has to stay. However, Ying did not go to Ganju's room. Gan Yu asked her out 3 or 4 times, and she only went once. My sister-in-law often told Ying that the new Zhang wife couldn't satisfy her young uncle. Ying gets up every morning to dress Zhang, has her hair done and carefully tidied her up. People are looking at Kang GJ a few times prettier than ever before. For 3 days, Kang became a beauty. My sister-in-law thought it strange and said to Ying, "I don't have a son, so I can't buy a concubine. I wonder if maids can be beautiful too." "No one can be beautiful," Ying said. "It's just easier to be better." Sister-in-law called all the maids and made Ying look at them. There's only one black, ugly maid who looks like a boy. Ying called her in, gave her a bath, washed her face, and then applied the powder and powder. 3 days later, the maid's face darkened and turned yellow. And a few days later, the gloss of the powder crept into her skin, and it was beautiful. Ying, they laughed in their room every day with the door closed, and they didn't want to do anything about the bandits. One night, the village erupted into a loud noise, and the whole family was terrified and overwhelmed. Soon after, the bandits left when someone outside the door yelled at them. It wasn't until after dawn that the village had been burned to the ground. The bandits scoured the valley caves, searching in teams, and people were found dead or captured. The Kins were more appreciative of Ying and treated her like a god. "I'm here because I can't forget my sister-in-law's feelings, so I'll share your worries for the time being," Ying said to her sister-in-law. "My brother will be back soon, and I'm here." As the saying goes, not Li Fei Dao, no matter what, makes people laugh. "I'm leaving. I'll come visit you again sometime," sister-in-law asked. "Is your brother okay on the way? There's been a lot of hardship recently, but it's none of others' business, Mez," Ying said. "Kin's sister has been blessed by her brother, and I think I will definitely repay him, so nothing will happen." My sister-in-law left her overnight, and Ying left before dawn. Gan Yu returned from Guangdong province and heard that there were bandits in his hometown. He went back day and night. When the thief bandits hit the road, the master and the servant threw the horse away. Each tied silver around their waist and dodged into the thorny jungle. At this point, a Kenji bird flew over the thorns and spread its wings to cover them. Mr. Gan felt strange missing a finger on his foot. Moments later, the thieves came from all sides and walked through the grass as if looking for them. The master and the servant were too scared to even breathe until the thief ran out, and the bird flew away. After Ms. Gan returned home, the family shared their stories, and Ms. Gan learned that the Kenji bird was the kin girl she had saved. Later, when Gan Yu can't come back, Ying will come at night. Gan Yu is expected to return and leaves early the next day. Gan Yu sometimes met Ying in her sister-in-law's room and saw the opportunity to invite her to her house. She only promised but refused to go. One night, Gan Yu went out. Cam thinks Ying will come and wait for her. Before long, Ying came, and Gan Yu suddenly came out, stopped her, and forced her to go to her room. "I'm done with you," Mr. Ying said. "I'm afraid God will punish me if I stick together. Why don't you leave some room and we can meet again?" Kim won't listen, and she's doing a couple thing again. After dawn, Ying went to see her sister-in-law, who wondered why she didn't come last night. She said, laughing, the robber robbed her on the way, leaving her sister-in-law waiting for an evening in vain. After a few words, he turned and left. Not long after, a large cat carried a parrot past her sister-in-law's bedroom door. My sister-in-law was so horrified that I suspected that the parrot was Ying. My sister-in-law was washing her hair, and she stopped and shouted. The family shouted at each other to save it. The parrot's left wing is covered in blood and is dying. The sister-in-law put it on her knees and stroked it for a long time before she woke up and mouthed her wings. A moment later, the parrot flew in a circle round the house, shouting, "Sister-in-law, farewell." I resent George Cam, vibrated his wings, and flew away, never to return.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.